Hello, hello. Okay, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Heather Gravely, and I am a proud and happy member of Team Grit on Michaela's team. Um, and I have been with Pampered Chef for 6 years. However, a short version of my story is I left my team. I was home office direct, and I left my team because I felt like I needed to grow and get some additional support. And I got connected with Michaela a few years ago, or I think it's 3 years now, few years, and we just hit it off. And I was just saying, look, can I be a fly on the wall? I just want to learn. I want to be a sponge. And through talk, and I said, I don't want to just take, take, take. I want to give whatever it is I've got. I just want to give whatever it is. And she was gracious enough to include me in her group and get me involved. And I just found such wonderful, wonderful friends there, and just support and idea sharing like I've never seen. And I made the very difficult decision to give up my advanced director title, start over, give up my career sales, my career recruits, and make the move. And it was the best move I ever made. I stopped selling in November of last year and was able to rejoin. I was like hitting that refresh button. I had to sit out for 6 months. I was like, refresh, refresh. And June 5th of last year, I was able to rejoin. And since then, I've recruited 34, I think. Before that, the total, I did add it up because I had forgotten how many I'd recruited before prior to that, in my 4.5 years or so, 4 years before that. And I had recruited a total with those 35, of 138, 128, something like that. Turned out it wound up being like two per month, when you average everything out. And then, but since I've been back, I've doubled that. So it's more like an average of four a month on average. And it's been really exciting to watch my team grow. And I'm supported by like the best people in the world, including, Brittany and Ellington and Michaela. It's just been a world of difference, and the excitement building is just fantastic. So I'm happy to be here talking to you about recruiting. I love recruiting. Judy Joel says recruiting fixes everything. And I would say, well, that is true, but it is like the iconic, like master thing that builds my business when I am in the like the what would you call it, like the down section in the valley, in a valley. The thing that I've done is, yes, attend more trainings, yes, ask people about bookings and things like that, increase my bookings, but it's actually going and recruiting new team members, because the excitement you get with new team members, it does fix everything. It makes you go more all in on your business. So it's not just about making more money. It is also about sharing this business and creating excitement on your team and putting you in the driver's seat of your own business. That's why we're called Team Drive, because we want to be in the driver's seat of our business, right? So I am going to share my screen. And here we go. Let me just start the presentation part. Maybe. My computer is so slow, so bear with it for a second. Come on, you can do it. Okay. I get a thumbs up if you can see my screen slowly? Okay. And can you hear me okay? My computer doesn't like it when I've got two things going at once. It's just, a little
You're
bit
good,
hectic.
Heb.
Thank you very much. Okay. Minimize this. All right, recruiting. That's what we're here to talk about. So before I get started, I love a little icebreaker. Can you share in the chat? And if somebody wouldn't mind just reading well, actually, I can see it now. Let me know what some of those favorite items are. What are your favorite Pampered Chef items? Okay, cup slicer, twist and chop. Ooh, that's tough. I know. It's like choosing your favorite kid, isn't it? Okay, we've got Brilliance Nonstick, Quick Slice, Mandolin, Chopper. Wow, we've got a lot of people saying the cup slicer. We've got the milk frother. That's my favorite every morning. Okay, so I want you to think about that item for a moment. All right, And when somebody brings it up to you in the party, how do you act about it? Like, how do you talk about it? How do you just like express your love? Do you post about it? Do you every chance you get, like, work it into the conversation? Oh, well, you need the cup slicer. In the post, do you really, if somebody brings it up and says, oh, I was looking at this, do you say, oh my gosh, you have got to get this thing? It has changed my kitchen for the better. Well, that's what I want to know is, do you share as much about your business, or in the same way, with as much passion about your business as when somebody asks you about your favorite product? So my favorite product, if somebody asks me, and I post this in every single party, is the garlic press. Like, the garlic press is my baby, and nobody will take that out of my kitchen. My original one, my OG garlic press, is 20 years old, and everyone knows I try to convert somebody to a fresh garlic every single party. Well, do I talk about the business the same way? Do you talk about the business the same way? Are you excited about your business? Can you talk about it the same way as you talk about that mix and chop or that cup slicer? Are you excited about your business? And can your potential recruit leads, when you're messaging them, can they hear the excitement in your voice? Are you asking them, talking to them about the business, saying, oh, you wouldn't believe how wonderful this Pampered Chef business is? Or are you like, oh my gosh, you have got to get in on this special? Or, oh, look at our kits. You think that this is a good deal? This is the best deal in the entire catalog. You've got to get in on this, and look what it can do. So let me ask you another question. Why aren't you recruiting? Oops, sorry. Why aren't you recruiting? Can you drop a couple things in the chat? Why aren't you? If you're not, and if you're new here, it's okay. Honestly, I didn't start recruiting until my 5th or 6th month in this business, and I wish like crazy I'd started sooner. Everybody will say that. But I waited for somebody to come to me. My first recruit came to me, and there was some great special, like what we had last month, a $29 or $25 kit. And I saw people posting in my team group, like, oh, welcome this person, welcome this person, welcome this person. And I was like, well, maybe I should just start asking. So I started asking, and lo and behold, after I started asking, I recruited 3 people that first month. So it takes asking, right? So I see fear. I see not asking enough, saying I'm new. Okay. Scared. And that's another one for fear. I've been trying, but no one. And if you do have no one, now it might be time to revisit maybe how you're asking, or, so that's what we're talking about today. I've recruited, but all of the ones I've recruited, one is consistent. And that can be frustrating too, if you feel that way, if you feel like you may pour into somebody and that doesn't pay off, pour time in. Okay, so there's lots of answers like that. Recruited a lot, very few active. Okay. All right, and here's a question: why should you recruit? And like I said, the times that I've been sort of down or had a lot going on in my own business, or not gone all in on my business the way I should, those are the times when I started recruiting. It lifted up my whole business. You are more accountable. If you haven't recruited anyone yet, recruit somebody, because you are more accountable to your own business, because you have somebody watching. And I know Michaela's like this, but I'm also like this, just a tiny bit. I'm a little competitive. So that first recruit that I brought on, I know that's shocking, isn't it, Michaela? Shocking. And the first recruit that I brought on, she was a rock star because she wanted to do this business. And I kept saying, well, I can't let her beat me. I mean, she's my recruit. I'm supposed to, know what's going on more. So that's another reason you should recruit. And also, we're not just in like the business to sell products, because they can go to Amazon and buy, a garlic press, or they can go to Amazon and buy a knockoff pizza stone. And I do say knockoff because it's not as good. But they're in this business for people. We're in this business for people. We're there to provide a resource for people, and we're here to change lives. And the only way, yes, it's great to have a kitchen full of Pampered Chef, but you really only change lives through this business. So a few things that I wanted to talk about, we always talk about asking your host 5 times. And I'm not going to give you specific wording necessarily to use because I think each person is different. And so you really have to look at the person. So yes, I do think that your host is your best lead. And my 5 times are a little bit different. So I wanted to give you some other ideas of times that you could ask a host that maybe you haven't thought of. And it will feel clunky once you start asking people for about the business. It'll feel clunky, and that's okay. Just work through the clunk, message your upline with anything that they write back. And that's how you get better. And I will say, for a long time, I felt so clunky about it. And we'll get into this a little bit, but that's because I was making it about me. I felt so awkward and I didn't want to ask people because I was making it about me. So we'll talk about that a little bit more. But asking your host 5 times, I like to ask when they first booked the party because why wait until a month from now when they can get started right now, right? And they can start asking their friends now to book a party. You can get their launch party going, however you approach that. And then I also do it again before I set up the party. And I really like that time because they're ready for it. They're ready to get their party started. You've been saying, okay, we're going to do it this week. They know I'm set because I've already confirmed with them that they're going to do the party. And so I say, okay, before I get everything set up, I just want to make sure that you know that you can earn the commission on this instead of me. As much as I love paychecks, I'd love for you to earn the commission on your friends' orders instead of me. And so that's when I ask that. As people are joining the party, especially if there's a ton, I will like to ask them then, say, okay, before people start ordering, just wanted to make sure, like, are you sure, like they're flocking to this party, so are you sure this isn't something you'd like to do? And there are 2 times when I'm closing the party that I can bring this up. One is as I'm getting bookings. So obviously that's before the closing the party, but as I'm going through that process, when I get bookings, if I'm getting like 2, 3, 4 bookings, I'm like, do you realize how much money you could make right now? Like for next month, for what you're facing, what expenses you're facing right now. You could get the paycheck for this, for all these friends that are booking, and I'll show you how to do it. And then I also like to look at the host cart. And I don't know if this is something that everybody does, but this has been a big one for me. When I see that they're adding the deluxe electric grill and griddle to their cart at half off, I'm like, okay, let's just think about this for a moment. And I don't usually like to focus on the kit itself, but this is one time I do. I say, okay, you could get all this other stuff and try us out, and you have these bookings anyway that I could give you, and you could get all these products for pretty much the same price that you're spending anyway. Plus, you get a business to try out for 30 days, and if you hate it, you can say goodbye, and that is totally fine. But if you love it, hey, look what you've just started. So I do like to look at their host cart, even if they're adding like a cast iron skillet to their cart. If they're adding the rapid prep mandolin and a couple little things to their cart that are in the kit, I'm like, are you sure? Because it just makes sense to me. I'm very frugal and I always like to get the most for the money. And so I like to pass that on to them too. But I try not to focus too much on the actual kit itself because I like to make sure that that's almost like a side bonus, a little bonus. And then the last time I do is if I'm setting up their friends party that booked from them, that's when I ask them again. I say, okay, this person you're going to be joining the party anyway. Are you sure you don't want to make the money on it? I do say to focus on them. This is a little tip that I like. Is start the conversation off, especially toward the end of the party after you've built a relationship. It's all about the relationship. Start by talking about what qualities about them would make them a good consultant. Were they like super organized? Did they drive you crazy because you spelled something wrong? Did they, were they like super detail oriented? And you're like, oh my gosh, you're so detail oriented. It may have driven you crazy in the party, but would that make a good consultant? Talk to them about how excited they were, how much they jumped in there and talked about the products that they love. I have one host that is jumping in there like constantly, and I'm like, okay, who thinks she would make a good Pampered Chef consultant? and you'd be surprised what seed that plants in them. So in other words, why they would be a good fit for Pampered Chef. And then also, as you move into the conversation, focus on the benefits of Pampered Chef. Talk about what Pampered Chef can offer them and how it can fit into their life. I don't want somebody to come on that it is not the right time of their life, right? Because then you are pouring into somebody and it's not the right time. I want it to be a good fit for them. And so, in other words, you're looking at why they would be a good fit for Pampered Chef, but then also why Pampered Chef would be a good fit for them. Okay, so here's a few tips. I said make it personal. Here, one thing that I really love to do when I'm doing, oh gosh, now I'm all distracted because of that cutie. When I'm doing recruiting asks, I like to make it personal, and I like to stalk their Facebook a little bit. I also like to scroll up in messages that we've sent before and see if they've mentioned anything at all. Were they building a house? Were they saying, oh, I might be looking for a new job? Have they said something in the past that would trigger something when you're talking to them about the business? But also look at their Facebook. See, have they been fundraising for a particular cause? Have they been going through something difficult? Have they, had a bunch of added medical expenses? Or do they post about their kids' cheer going to Disney World and here and there? And do they love to travel? Do they love to eat? These are things that you can talk to them about in your message. Say, oh my gosh, I noticed that you are always posting the best recipes, always posting the best recipes. What would you think about trying this out? So just little things like that. So stalk their Facebook page in a good way and see what they're all about. Make sure you follow up with all business asks. Make sure you follow up. So if you didn't hear that, follow up. Because how many times have you reached out to somebody about the business? You can reach out to somebody and it not be the right time, and the next time you ask them, it will be. And actually, one of the rock stars on my team right now was exactly that. And I asked her, what made you sign? I asked her today, what made you sign up this time? And she said, well, you just kept asking, or you just kept being there. She didn't say it that way. She said, you were always there following up with me, and it wasn't the right time before. But you kept letting me know that there was a special. You kept, reaching out to me, just seeing how I was going, if this was the right time. And that's what did it. So I can't say enough how important that is. We talk about having a hot lead list, a warm lead list, and a cold lead list. And as I am super digital, a lot of my stuff is digital, but this is tracking is one thing, tracking booking asks and tracking people that are business leads. I go back to pen and paper. I have a notebook, and I'll show you my notebook after we do that. But so there are a lot of ways to follow up, and I'll show you a couple of those when I show you my notebook at the end. Address objections. That's a pretty obvious one. Look at each thing that they say, each reason why they say they can't do something, and say, okay, what's really behind this? Do they just not have enough information? Do they have a misconception about what it takes? Is it a knee-jerk reaction? Look at each thing that they say, and be sure to see what's underneath it and say, okay, is there something that I can say back to this, or is it a no forever? And if you have any question about that, about how to address objections, there are tons of resources in Team Full Throttle or whatever team you're on. There's documents with objections, but also you can just do a screenshot and send it to your upline, because it is a really, until you get comfortable talking to people about their objections, it's really great to run it past somebody else. Even if you type up what you would say back and say, how does this sound? That's a great thing to do. And I always like to end on a positive and just say, even something like, okay, totally understand this isn't for everyone. We, just like with bookings, we need people to buy Pampered Chef too. We need customers, not just consultants. If everybody were a consultant, I probably wouldn't have much of a business, right? If everybody were a consultant. So we need people to buy too. And that's totally fine. And I do ask them to keep me in the back of their mind, because they might know somebody down the road who might need this, or who this would be good for, or who would enjoy something like this. The next tip is track, 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 just like following up with everybody. Track, track, track. I like to keep my recruiting notebook for like more of the long term, but I also like to put them into my like daily contact notebook, because I need to see it in black and white and know that I need to follow up with somebody. And I would highly advise, I know we have a lot of goals, and it's really great to set goals. And I'm huge into setting goals, because if I don't set goals, I have nothing to strive for, right? But I like to stay away from talking anyone into the business. If it's not for them, then move on, or, to follow up with them later. I don't want to say, oh, but you would be so good at this. Oh, you need this. Oh, it's like, yes, there is a level of addressing objections, but if it's not them and you're dragging them across that finish line, then it will not be beneficial for you. And I don't mean financially, I mean like health wise and your own peace of mind. So I like to find people who want to do this and who it really could benefit them in some way. Are we doing on time? Okay, gotta pick it up. So these are, if you want to screenshot this, if you think this is helpful, the great Sharon Zellen, I heard, if you have not heard her talk about recruiting, I highly recommend it. It was on one of those coffee talks, I think, or Saturday Success Talk. She did one a while ago, and it's just out of this world. Also, Recruiting from the Heart is one that everybody should listen to. But these are some of the phrases that I've either got from her or I've flipped around and used that are similar to what she says. I know this might be the furthest thing from your mind, but this may be completely out of the blue, but have you ever thought about doing something like this? I know this is a great one for people that you have talked to, and I think I use this on my newer consultant that just joined. I know we've talked about this in the past, and that can work for past hosts, that can work for people that were on your lead list. I know the last time we talked, the timing wasn't right, but, and have you ever thought about doing something like Pampered Chef for extra money? That can be, you can combine that with any of those other ones. And do you think something like Pampered Chef could help you right now? And that really is for those people that are going through a tough time or have a lot of expenses and things like that. Some other ones are, if you were to start your own Pampered Chef business, do you think you'd be most excited about the extra paycheck, the free products, or having a community around you, or all of the above? Because let's face it, all of those are really great. As people are joining their party or interacting in the party, or booking parties, I can tell your friends love Pampered Chef. That's one that I use a lot. You were the most amazing host. You basically did my job for me. And then they're like, well, why am I not getting the money for it? And of course, we could just turn this into your launch party. I would still run it, but you'd earn the commission on your friends' orders. Cash. You would get all the host rewards, and you'll get any parties booked to help you start your business strong. All right, and these are some people to be on the lookout for in and out of your parties. I think that's one thing that I've really tried hard to do, is to always have, where I used to be when I first started, I was very sales minded, and I would always be looking for a sale. And then eventually you move into, okay, now I need to, yes, sales are good, but parties are going to grow my business. Okay, that's great. But now, so I got good at asking for parties and always being on the lookout for a party. But then it's like, okay, now I really need to look for those team members. And eventually you can even be looking for those next leaders on your team. But I'm always playing that in the back of my head. If they say something, it triggers. If they say one of these things, it'll trigger me to just talk to them about the business. And one of them is, this is a huge one. Especially if you're doing a project broadcast blast about the new catalog. I love Pampered Chef, but I can't afford to buy anything right now. That's a huge one. And I always ask about that. I also look for party rock stars, not potty rock stars. They can be potty rock stars too, but they really need to be party rock stars. People that are in your parties and interacting and asking questions and being like, oh, I have that. Oh, I love that. I would love to get that. People that are looking for a new job. I've actually found a couple of consultants going to my city's, just the local Facebook group. There's tons of them. There's like a mom's one. There's very generic ones. But I found several new consultants by going there and typing in SAHM, stay at home mom, or typing in hiring or typing in job and just like scrolling through and looking for people who are looking for or work from home. That's another one. And I have actually gotten a few new team members that way. And I just, not very pressuring or anything like that, or people that are posting on those types of groups about having a hard time money wise. Okay. And having to put their kid in daycare, their baby in daycare, because they have to go out and find a job. So just some things to keep in mind. Those local groups can be really great. And it doesn't even have to be local, because we're virtual, a lot of us. Somebody says, I own the catalog. People with kids in sports, cheer, dance, marching band, who love art, who love to travel. Retired people or empty nesters. Anyone who says I have lots of medical expenses. People that I actually did have one new recruit from the month that we were doing double fundraisers, because she was saying how much she has to pay for her kid's band. And so she wanted to do a fundraiser. I said, well, that's great. You can definitely do that, but you could also make the money on it too. You can make the commission on it. So you're getting the donation and the commission to put toward your kids' activity. And then stay-at-home moms or moms that just had a kid go to kindergarten. I don't know what you call that. It's not an empty nester, but it's similar. And, coming back around to, do you handle your business asks the same way you would handle booking asks? Are you addressing objections? Are you confident in how you address objections? Are you confident about your own business? When you talk about a booking and you have a really great host special, which is every month because we always have a good host special, but if you have a really great host special, are you excited about that host special? Why not be super excited about the recruiting, the kits that they can get? So if you have somebody say, well, I don't have a lot of money to spend, you say, that's okay. We can, throw a party, do a kit credit. If you can't afford the $50 kit, just takes this much to get started. Be confident in this business and what it can give you. And also the follow-up, and I will come back to that just for a quick second. And before we head to questions, I'm going to stop sharing. Okay, so this is my recruiting notebook. And it says, I don't know who you are, but I will find you and recruit you. Okay, and I do have a section in each for the hot lead list. The hot leads, and this came straight from Ellington. The hot leads are the people that you should be following up with very often. I do that probably anytime there is anything that pops in my head about recruiting. Yeah, I know, it's a cool notebook. Then I have the warm lead list. Anybody who's not right now, if they write back to me that about the business ask, they go in my warm leads list, pretty much. The people that said, no, this is not something that I have any time for. This is something, I love Pampered Chef, but this is just not something I have time for. But you still get that little spark man, I'd like to do it, but then they go in my cold list. That's more of the long term. I don't have many names in the cold lead list. They usually go in the warm lead list. But here's my big tip. This is why I wanted to show it to you. In the very back of my notebook, I have a list of names. You can see there's 3 pages of this. I do it in the back of my notebook, the last pages, and I work my way backwards. It's just a list, okay? A list of names. Those are anyone who has told me that they used to be a Pampered Chef consultant. They go in my book. I don't care where they were. If they were, just mention it to me. If they, I have a post that says, what level of Pampered Chef are you? And that's one that I make sure I put in my parties and I tag everybody in it. And one of the levels, a lot of the levels stop at, oh, I own the catalog, but I added a level to mine that says I used to be a Pampered Chef consultant. And if they answer, Myra, who is my director on my team, she came from that post because she was a host and I didn't know she used to be a Pampered Chef consultant years ago. And so she answered that. I was like, what? You used to, how did I not know this? And she joined my team. So I always reach out to those people with business asks, and they go in the back of my notebook. Anyone who during that like conversation in Messenger that you're trying to get with every single guest in the party, you're trying to get that two-way conversation going. I always say, are you new to Pampered Chef? Do you have a lot? And most of the time, they just want to offer up, hey, I used to be a consultant 20 years ago, or, and I always ask them questions about that. And I always try to ask them, well, what do you think, if they weren't successful with it, why not? What do you think was the reason that you weren't successful last time? If they say that they weren't, maybe they sold Scentsy a long time ago. I make a note of that. If I'm putting them on my lead list, I'll make a note if they sold anything else direct sales, because they're open to the idea. But I'll always ask them, well, how'd you do? How'd you do with it? And if they say, oh, not great, then ask them why. If they say, oh, I did great, ask them why. So that is my recruiting notebook. But those people that used to be consultants are people that I follow up with pretty regularly. That's one of the first places I go. So I think I talked fast enough. Any questions for me? I have not looked at the chat, so if anybody sees something in the chat, let me know. Let's see.
They're amazing. Oh my gosh, everyone's loving this and all the verbiage that you were willing to share. So yeah, Heather is like insane. So you can imagine like how awesome this training is, but like our calls and like her mind is just constantly going. And I'm like, holy cow, she's gotten some really good ideas. So super creative, very blessed to have her a part of our organization.
And I'm sorry I don't have a document for you guys. Like literally those little catchphrases is what I insert into my conversations. And I don't like to have, a set anything for recruiting us. It's got to come from the heart. It really does have to be you. And so I really try to, yes, there will be a day where I'll send like the same message, and I do use voice clips sometimes. I find that I'm always a lot of times I'm in a place where I can't listen to a voice clip. So I don't always just send those because if somebody can't listen to it right then, they're gone. So, so I do use some voice clips, but not only. Any other questions? I'm scrolling through. And feel free to unmute instead. No. All right. I think that's it.
Okay, so should we do our drawing?
Yeah.
This is my first time keeping track of all the names. So I was trying to think like the fastest way so I could be done at the end. And I thought, oh, I'll just take screenshots of the attendees and then it'll be on my phone and I can just copy and paste them from the image. But now guess what? I can't share my screen because the wheel of names is on my phone. So here we go. I'm going to tap to spin and then I'm going to hold this up and hopefully you guys will be able to read who the winner is. Nope. Oh, can you see it? Yes. Robin Bryan, congratulations. So excited for you. Be sure you reach out to Michaela. She is in charge of the prizes this month. So reach out to Michaela and give her your address or email address, or she'll tell you what she needs. I'm not sure what she's doing, but big congratulations, you guys. Remember, we're working to get 100 people on these calls. So put it on your calendar, set a reminder on your phone, 7 p.m. every Tuesday, and remind your team members, bring a friend next week, and let's hit 100 people on the call next week, you guys. This was so much fun. Thanks for taking time away from your family to spend time with us tonight. Heather, you are a rock star. That was so good. I loved hearing your verbiage. It's always fun to see what other people say. So that was probably my favorite part of this, was grabbing screenshots of your verbiage, just because it's fun to switch it up sometimes. I think you did an amazing job. What a treat.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, everyone. Well, have a great night. Thanks so much for coming. Bye.
Bye.